Hello guys, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about some Toronto Maple Leafs trade rumors involving Patrick Marleau, Nikita Zaitsev, Nazem, Kadri, and Kasperi Kapanen. Now, the latest Toronto Maple Leafs rumors are very juicy. But what's the latest news and rumors on guys like Marleau, Zaitsev, Kadri, and Kasperi Kapanen? Watch till the end to find out. Now, the rumor mill has been buzzing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially as of late. Multiple key players could be on their way out of Toronto very soon. Now, one of the most interesting players out of the bunch is Patrick Marleau, and there's been a ton of rumors come out in the last couple of weeks on his future with the Toronto Maple Leafs, or the lack thereof. When it comes to potential trade there was some negotiations with Toronto and the LA Kings. After we got word of that, we also heard from Pierre LeBrun there was some negotiations between Toronto and Arizona on a potential Patrick Marleau deal, and it's obvious that Toronto is looking at potential trade options. While Patrick Marleau is a very good locker room guy, he's basically a dad to guys like Austin Matthews and of course Mitch Marner, I still think he's a guy that you do end up trading, especially for his production, which is not worth $6.25 million. I like the Leafs quite a bit, and I like Patrick Marleau as a player and a human being a lot as well. But it's obvious on the ice that Patrick Marleau is just not a fit with the Toronto Maple Leafs anymore. He was getting 4 flying minutes towards the end of the season, and in the playoffs, he got a lot more ice time than he should have. He really showed it. He was not really the best player on the ice whatsoever. And when it comes to Patrick Marleau, the age obviously kind of kept up to him, especially in the last regular season. And there's teams obviously that show interest. We got LA, we got Arizona. I don't think those teams are really great fits for him personally to have a retirement home for him, I guess. But for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's a contract I think they do need to get rid of in this offseason. And if they do, Mitch Marner will have a much easier time, especially signing as an RFA. When it comes to the LA Kings, I don't think that's a great position for Patrick Marleau to be in whatsoever. It's an old team. The team is basically Patrick Marleau, past their prime, old, slow, and at the end of their career. And for Patrick Marleau to go to LA that has basically no future at this point, besides some of the solid process they have right now, I think that would be a foolish move for him to make, and a bad one for the Toronto Maple Leafs if they do end up trading him there, because I think that would be a disservice to him. When it comes to Arizona Coyotes, it's a little bit better, but Arizona is looking to get a premium asset as Pierre LeBrun takes it in the potential trade of Arizona. So with Toronto, with those two potential teams, there is some finagling there. I think Arizona is the better fit by far when it comes to Patrick Marleau on the ice, but LA going after him with their current mindset of being old and tough doesn't really surprise me either. Patrick Marleau this past season, the regular season, had 37 points, so he's not a bad player whatsoever. He has one more year on that $6 million deal, so it's not like this huge contract that Toronto just cannot get rid of. There is some interest out there for a guy like Patrick Marleau, even with the semi-no-trade clause that he has. While it is going to be interesting negotiations between the two teams if they actually will mutually part, I think it will happen this offseason. I think he will end up getting traded, and that's just a product of the cap era. You'd love to keep a guy like Patrick Marleau on your team, but at $6 million for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's just not plausible. The next player that's been fetching up some juicy trade rumors as of late has been Nikita Zaitsev, and his situation is very interesting because we all know that Toronto wants to get rid of that contract, but he's still finding ways to get in the news, and rightfully so. When it comes to Nikita Zaitsev, I think it was like about a week ago, he requested a trade from Toronto, which is big news for a guy like him on a pretty solid team as well. And for Toronto, again, they kind of want an excuse to trade him. There's your excuse, and there is some team interest out there, a lot more than even I considered. Now, Zaitsev in this season with Toronto ended up playing 81 games, getting 14 points. He wasn't given really any chance at all to be on the power play, which is usually his bread and butter, so the points weren't really there. But he is right-handed, which is kind of adding to his value, I would say. When it comes to his contract, it's an albatross completely. It's a $4.5 million contract for 5 more years, and for Zaitsev, he obviously has shown to not be worth that contract up to this point, but there is some interest out there for a right-handed defenseman who's just okay. And that surprised me, to be honest, because I personally would never even touch Nikita Zaitsev, but there's some bona fide interest for him, and Toronto could have a much easier time at trading him than I initially thought. Now, Pierre LeBrun ended up dropping a bomb, I think this was yesterday, and he ended up saying, his source being the Carolina Hurricanes GM Don Waddell, that the Carolina Hurricanes are interested in a potential package of Nikita Zaitsev. Now, the rumor that he suggested was that Kasperi Kapanen and Nikita Zaitsev both together go to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for a defenseman, whether that's Pesce, Hamilton, or Justin Falk. And that is very interesting to me. Again, Carolina getting a guy like Kasperi Kapanen would be a pretty solid fit. They would take on that Nikita Zaitsev Zaitsev contract, but they would give away another defenseman. I don't see it being Brett Pesce at that point. I see it more being a guy like Hamilton or Falk. I would say Falk's probably the more likely guy in that trade, but whatever happens, I think Toronto gets a solid defenseman, especially if it is a guy like Dougie Hamilton. When it comes to this whole Carolina deal, I think it does make sense for both teams involved. When it comes to Carolina, they get Zaitsev, who is not the greatest defenseman, but they get a guy like Kasperi Kapanen, who has a lot of potential to become a top 6 forward and for cheap as well. When it comes to Toronto, they obviously have a defensive need. Getting a guy like a Dougie Hamilton or Justin Falk would be a pretty solid job of that, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Justin Falk whatsoever. So when it comes to both teams, I think they would win in that potential trade, and for Toronto, getting rid of Nikita Zaitsev as well would be a huge win for them. Now, we're not just done yet with these Zaitsev rumors, and Elliotte Friedman ended up smashing another bomb when it comes to potential teams that are interested in a Zaitsev offer. Now, the teams that are interested go as follows. There are 3 different teams: the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Vancouver Canucks, and the New Jersey Devils. And these 3 teams are very interesting to me personally, especially the Vancouver Canucks. And when it comes to all 3 of those are decent options, but ones that I did not expect whatsoever. The first team we're going to talk about is the Tampa Bay Lightning, and this is very interesting because Tampa Bay usually is a pretty smart team, so I wouldn't expect them to go after Nikita Zaitsev 1-for-1 and not getting anything else back from Toronto. So I would expect another asset. Maybe it is a guy like Kasperi Kapanen coming back from Toronto. Maybe you give a young defenseman like Cernak back to Toronto. That can maybe end up working towards their favor. But for Tampa, them being interested in Nikita Zaitsev 1-for-1, I just don't see that happening whatsoever. The next team that was mentioned was the Vancouver Canucks, and this makes a lot more sense to me than the Tampa Bay Lightning, if I'm going to be honest here. While it's not the greatest fit, I don't think, I still think it would be a solid one. Now, Vancouver has cap space to give up, so getting a guy like Zaitsev wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them. Well, they gotta sign a guy like Brock Besser, obviously. I think they can take that Zaitsev contract pretty easily. They need some more help on that defense, especially if a guy like Alex Edler is going to go on the wayside, so that could end up working out in their favor as well. When it comes to Vancouver, again, that whole situation is weird. I'm not sure if they need another defenseman on that power play, but if they do go after Zaitsev, I would maybe expect maybe a decent forward coming back to them, but also maybe giving up a defenseman as well. Maybe they give up a guy like Ben Hunt in the trade. That could work quite well. The last team that was mentioned was the New Jersey Devils, and this is also a very interesting fit. Now, Taylor Hall has been in the rumors recently as maybe not considering signing with the New Jersey Devils, and the New Jersey Devils obviously out there, they're trying to make their team better, and Taylor Hall has gone on record saying that if the New Jersey Devils do not make themselves better, or at least put them in a better position to succeed in this offseason, he might not consider signing there long term. And getting a guy like Nikita Zaitsev, he is a pretty decent name out there. He's not the best defenseman in the world, but hey, at least he's a guy, and New Jersey does have cap space. That defense is absolutely horrendous and could use some average defensemen to replace those below average guys, so I think it could work, and of course New Jersey has the cap space to boot. The next player that's been in the juicy trade rumors as of late has been Nazem Kadri, and he's very interesting because we all basically expect him to get traded. If you ask me, I think he's one of the most likely players to get traded in this NHL offseason, but he's definitely been swirling in the rumors as of late, especially in the last couple of weeks. I think last week we saw him, maybe he's being swirled as a potential 1-for-1 Nazem Kadri of Jacob Trouba. That could still be a thing, by the way, but Nazem Kadri had a very interesting season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He got 44 points this season, a decent downgrade from what he had in the previous few seasons, so he kind of downgraded a little bit. With Toronto, obviously, they got Matthews, they got Tavares, a pretty solid 1-2 punch center-wise, and Nazem Kadri kind of got bumped down ice time-wise especially. Another team could definitely use his services a lot more than Toronto right now. It's been floated around that a team like Carolina or Winnipeg might be in the deal, and we saw maybe Jacob Trouba possibly going back to the Toronto Maple Leafs too. At $4.5 million, Nazem Kadri has a pretty solid contract on his hands, so I think there will be a lot of teams interested. While he got a 10-team no-trade list, I still think a lot of teams that are outside of that will be interested in his services. He's a solid player who had a down year in Toronto, and if given some ice time, will definitely succeed, especially with a new team. The next player that's been in the trade rumors, especially as of late, has been Kasperi Kapanen, and he's also very interesting. He's an RFA this offseason, another RFA that Toronto has to deal with. When it comes to Kasperi Kapanen, it's been floated around that he might get upwards of $4.5 million. At that point, maybe even $5 million if he gets his way. And when it comes to Kasperi Kapanen, he's a very solid player, very talented player as well. And a lot of teams, again, in a trade could definitely use a guy that has top 6 forward upside as well, especially given the ice time. And that's a very valuable asset. That's an asset that a lot of teams want and need. And Toronto, having that RFA right there, could definitely get a solid defenseman back as well. Obviously, when we talked about the Nikita Zaitsev situation, maybe you have Zaitsev and Kapanen as a package going for defensemen, especially for Carolina, I think that makes sense. When it comes to Toronto and Kapanen, again, that whole mutual thing right there, I think it's more likely than not, especially that Kapanen does sign still in Toronto, especially if they're able to get rid of a guy like Zaitsev or Patrick Marleau, but it is a little bit tight there. Getting a guy like Kapanen, it's not going to be easy for Toronto, especially if they do end up signing a guy like Mitch Marner. So when it comes to him, and when it comes to his potential services, he would obviously love to stay in Toronto. He's a great Maple Leaf and has been so far in his career. I think he would love to stay there, but it might not end up working in the end. Now, there's been three main teams that I think have been floated around when it comes to Kasperi Kapanen. Obviously, the first one being the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they'll be a pretty solid fit. The second one I've seen a little bit has been the Winnipeg Jets, and that's a team that's going over some massive turnover with how many restricted free agents that they had this offseason. Getting a guy like Kasperi Kapanen, maybe they trade a guy like Trouba in a package deal potentially. That could work out as well. And the last team has been the Edmonton Oilers, and I think that's a very interesting fit as well. That's a guy that I think Ken Holland would really enjoy on his team and could go after. When it comes to Edmonton, when it comes to Kapanen, really, that is a perfect forward for them to take. There are some other guys also like Connor Brown that could fit on Edmonton, but Kasperi Kapanen, if given a good contract, could fit very well with Edmonton, and playing with Connor McDavid would be absolutely just a joy to watch on the ice. But again, when it comes to Kasperi Kapanen, I think if he is traded, he's traded for the defensive need. I think if they're going to trade him, it would likely be in a package deal for some solid defenseman. Again, let's say it's the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe they get a guy like a Darnell Nurse, or maybe even, let's say, a Oscar Klefbom, which would be absolutely fantastic. Again, I think it would be in a package deal. I'm not sure if Kasperi Kapanen alone is able to get a guy like Trouba or an Oscar Klefbom or on a Carolina like a Justin Falk. That would be the dream right there. But when it comes to Kasperi Kapanen, I think it's more likely than not he does end up staying in Toronto, and hopefully, because he's a fantastic player and will be in the next few years. But honestly, when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, they have an absolutely insane offseason with so many different guys to sign, with so many different decisions to make. Kyle Dubas is definitely going to have his work cut out for him. But the guys mentioned in this video, again, all four of those guys could potentially get traded. That's how much turnover there might be in this offseason. And of course, the latest rumors are pretty feisty right now and always juicy. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So, let me know what you think about the latest Toronto Maple Leafs NHL trade rumors. What do you think about the trades discussed in this video? What do you think about the trade rumors on guys like Marleau, Zaitsev, Kadri, and Kasperi Kapanen? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on these card right here to watch my video with Tarek Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky and where they might end up in this offseason. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the Toronto Maple Leafs' latest NHL trade rumors. I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.